What's happening, people? I hope you're all well. Here I'm with Aaron again, and we're going to be analysing Anthony Joshua versus Robert Helenius, and we're going to be looking at some of the undercard bouts as well. So thank you once again to Aaron for being on here. And I'm going to start off by asking you, with regards to, we'll start with the main one. So with regards to Anthony Joshua versus Robert Helenius, how did that fight go compared to how you thought it was going to go?
Well, I think in the prediction video I actually said 5-7, so in terms of my prediction it was right.
Yeah.
I think in terms of jabs, I was surprised how good Helenius' jabs was, because I rate Joshua's jab as one of the best in the division, so Helenius to be landing that much, fair play to him. Also, I want to put into consideration that obviously Joshua was training for someone that's 6'2", 6'3", not 6'7", and I could see from round one he couldn't really find his range, so I think that was more of a factor that played into the fight than I thought. But overall, I would say it kind of played out how I expected it. Cautious, but when he wanted to take him out, he could take him out.
Yeah, and I think definitely you have to factor in the what you said. You alluded to the height disparity between Helenius and Dillian Whyte, and obviously, yeah, you're going to have to be punching sort of mid, sort of like normal. It's like punching someone you're similar height as opposed to someone who's quite a bit shorter than you. So that would have factored in. And I was impressed with Helenius' jab. It was a well-timed jab. I'm not going to say it was a Kell Brook jab, but you know, like when someone's not fast, but they got the timing.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't miss, and that was one thing that surprised me, if in all honesty. But yeah, so yeah, you did predict the mid rounds, and that's exactly what happened. I think I was similar to you as well. So in terms of when the fight ended, because I never thought Robert Helenius was just going to let it be a one round like be a 1 round knockover job like he was against Wilder. Like it's conceivable. I don't know if you agree with this. If it was reversed and Joshua fought Helenius first and then he fought Wilder, it's even conceivable he would have gone more rounds with Wilder.
Yeah, definitely, because with Helenius, he even said it in an interview that I saw, because he's actually sparred Wilder, he said he's never really seen Wilder on a back foot, and we saw that when they fought, he was chasing Wilder down. Obviously, he didn't factor into how fast Wilder is, but he didn't fight the same fight with Joshua. He kind of predominantly fought on the back foot against Joshua, had lapses of pressure, but it wasn't really anything, but he was majority on the back foot trying to jab through the rounds.
Yeah, and I definitely think one thing I will say is, because we were talking about the height disparity in Robert Helenius, I know Eddie Hearn, like, as even that man said, like, Robert Helenius' height just was all over the place. It was like, apparently there was like 6'9", and then like 6'8", apparently, and then like Joshua looked taller, but then I sent you that picture and it's like Joshua looked way smaller. But I think once I saw them in the ring, I would probably say Helenius was 3/4 to an inch taller than Joshua. So with regards to the and I think that Helenius' jab was good. And the other thing I will say is that people were saying, Helenius was there to be taken and he was backing up against the ropes. But I know you've sparred in the gym and I've seen you, and obviously I've done a lot of sparring. It's actually harder than you think sometimes when someone's up against the ropes and they know how to lean back and they know how to roll, like, and they know how to like make you miss and clinch. So I think people are missing something there when they say, he was just backing up against the ropes and he's easy to be countered. It's not as easy as people think. But
100%. Even with this fight, every time Helenius was on the ropes, when Joshua tried to come forward, Helenius used his jab, that was keeping Joshua off. So it wasn't just as easy as people saying, he could have taken him out for round 3, because every time every time he came in close quarters, he got hit with the jab. So it was a kind of thing like, it was a methodical performance, it was a good performance, but I think people really need to watch it one more time to think, okay, it wasn't just there for the taking, how people were saying.
Nah, and I think people who box understand that. So I want to maybe just kind of get into sort of talking about the positives from that fight. First thing I want to do is big up Robert Helenius for taking that on a week's notice as well, because that's a big job. And he actually came in there, and I thought he had some ambition. He went about it with a bit of ambition. People might not say so, but I definitely think he had some ambition. He went in there first round and tried to make a bit of a statement. But I think that the next thing I want to talk about is Joshua's positives And I think the positives were he's clearly been looking at how to fight smaller. That's a new wrinkle to his game, I think, because even when the knockout happened, he kind of had a small man stance. Like, you know, I've never seen Joshua really jab to the head, to the body, and then come over the top with an overhand right. And he just looked to have a more compact stance, like not as upright. So I thought that was a positive. I don't know if you've noticed that. He seemed to be a lot tighter defensively.
Definitely. I was going to literally say, I think one positive to take from this fight, that in terms of defense, it's got a lot better. His hand placement has got a lot better. I think his footwork has definitely improved. You could see it before. He used to be a bit more flat-footed. Now he's definitely more elusive. I just think overall the fighter, he's just seasoning up. I think these type of fights, from a managerial point of view, he should have had them before. I think he's learning now just because he was fast-tracked. So I think these type of performances, these type of fights should have happened before. But you can see every fight he is getting more seasoned. So it's just a case now if he can put them together against the elite. We'll see.
Yeah, I think against Charles, even before fighting Charles Martin, he could have had those fights. So, and I don't mean Charles Martin or whatever. I'm just saying before a world title fight.
World title, because in terms of winning the world title, it's like it's one thing beating a person, but now you can't return to the level you were fighting before, just because you now have to fight people who are ranked in the top 15 of the governing bodies. So it is a catch-22 situation.
Yeah, you got to take the chance, haven't you? But if you don't take the chance, when is it going to come again? But if you take it, now you're in the deep end. So I think the positives, the more compact stance, the feet look to improve. I've noticed that Derek James fighters tend to be quite physical. They use their physicality. They tend to work behind a solid jab and sort of have a physical dominance in the ring. And I think that is rubbing off on Joshua a little bit.
Definitely. I also think that his cardio's improved. I think before he would struggle from round 6, round 7. I think over the past couple of years, it's like we now know we can comfortably do 12 rounds. It's not really a fact that we're not sure we can make it to the 12 rounds. We know now that it's comfortable for him. It's not an issue. Yeah.
So I think those are definitely positives. And again, like I think that fighting up close, there seemed to be a bit of an improvement there, especially with the finish. So I think that was a good thing to take. Because against Wilder, one thing Wilder's not good at, or not as good at, is because he's very slender. He's not got the body type for the compact inside work. So with Joshua coming on the inside, that could be an advantage if he ends up facing Wilder next. Because I don't think Wilder's ever going to be good on the inside. He just hasn't got the body mechanics. His arms are too wiry. And like his like almost like his torso's too gangly kind of. So if Joshua can utilize the inside game, and I think then that's a good chance for success. Now with the negatives, what are negatives or things that you don't think were or maybe concerned you a little bit if Joshua was going to fight Wilder next? What concerned you?
I wouldn't say concern, just because the fact he wasn't training for someone that's 6'7", but I did think he would find the range a bit more easier than he did. I think that's maybe also a factor, just because Helenius' jab was that good. I don't think Wilder possesses a good jab, Wilder, but it's not snappy as fast as Helenius' jab. So I could say that, but in terms of finding the range, I thought he would find it a bit quicker than he did. Also as well, I do feel like he's not moving his head as much. It's kind of on the centre line. I feel like he's thinking, and because he's thinking, he's not really multitasking in the ring. You can see that he's thinking what to do, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you can see it. With other fighters, it looks a bit more instinctual. With Joshua, he's a thinking guy. And I actually think he was a thinking guy even when he was being more aggressive and when he was younger. Honestly, I think he was still a thinking guy because he was more... he's always been someone who has a look. I never saw him going in like Mike Tyson. He would definitely have a little look at his opponents before he went in. But I think with Joshua, the thing that I have to say, I'll be honest, is I still don't think he's got the confidence pre-Andy Ruiz one, in my opinion. I don't think he's got that. I think that this will do him good, getting a knockout, because that's the first knockout since Pulev, isn't it? He needs, I think for the best chance of him being Wilder, he still needs to be more confident. He needs to at least be as confident as before his first defeat as a pro. But, you know, what else would I say? The jab, I think we both agree on the jab. He was getting caught, but I also would say that Helenius had a better time jab than I've seen Wilder have.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I said. I think in terms of the different types of jabs, Wilder doesn't possess that fast, quick timing jab compared to Helenius. So I think that's definitely one factor when he's playing into it.
So yeah, I think the jab was a bit of a concern. Now, the other thing I'll say is Joshua's nose is always getting bloodied up. But you know, that might be genetics. There was a guy at a gym I used to train at. Every time he got hit on the nose, like, it would bleed. So I don't know, maybe that it's like nerves, or like, when I say no, I don't mean nervous, I mean like nerves. Any other? The main thing for me is the confidence. I think he needs to, but I do think that will increase the confidence. So the fact that he got a knockout, because he hadn't had that. I think in the ring,
as soon as he knocked Helenius, I've never really seen him celebrate like that. So I think it's something that he definitely needed a knockout, because Helenius was out. So I think in terms of confidence, that's definitely something he needed.
Yeah.
Even in one point, we were talking about it in a video before, in terms of matchmaking. Now I saw what Washington did. I'm actually happy that he fought Helenius. I think Washington would have been an easier fight, but I think he needed the Helenius fight just because stylistically it does present closer similarities to Wilder compared to Washington.
Yeah, I think, because a puncher and someone who's taller, so those are definitely factors. I think overall, to round off the performance, it was, I'm not going to say, I don't think it was amazing. I think it was, for where Joshua was at now, I think it was a decent performance. And the reason, Helenius is better than people realise, because anyone can get blown out in a round, and it's styles make fights and all these different things. So I think it was a decent performance. I think Joshua showed improvements, but I think he needs to be on the other flip side. I think if he can get as confident as possible before facing Wilder, and you said, celebration, you see him happy, that's good, but he needs to be confident when he fights Wilder. And I also think that he needs to tighten that, keeping the head. I was actually saying that while I was watching it, my friend was like, he's not taking his head off the line and he's getting caught with these jabs, so he needs to, and facing Wilder, he needs to be slipping the head a bit.
Definitely.
But yeah, so that's kind of the roundup for that performance. But he got the knockout win. Hopefully he fights Wilder next, and he moves on. With regards to the undercard fights, we'll quickly round this off. So Derek Chisora versus Gerald Washington. What are your thoughts on that?
So obviously I was there, so maybe it looks different on TV, but my first reaction was, I thought Gerald Washington won the fight. Yeah. I think the first 4 rounds it was light work for Washington, really. Mm-hmm. I think Chisora's an old man, and you can see that the first thing that goes with old fighters are their legs, their footwork. And I think Chisora's leg and his footwork I think he's shot to bits, to be honest with you. And I think if Washington had more power behind his punches, I think he could have even taken out Chisora early.
Yeah.
I think, he was catching Chisora with beautiful shots. But like I said with Chisora, you can't take the warrior out of him. He's a credit to British boxing. He stuck in there and got a decision, so fair play to Chisora.
Yeah, fair play to him, man. What I will say is, though, I think he got dropped. I need to watch it again, but I think he got dropped.
What is that? Is that in the first round?
I think it was round 2, end of round 2 or something. They said it was a push, but then I replayed it. I'll replay it again, but I think Gerald Washington threw an overhand right, and it landed on the chest of Chisora, and Chisora went down. And then they said push, and I had Chisora winning by a point, but then if you put the knockdown, if it did count, so I mean, I need to watch it again. I think, in my opinion, Chisora is in well past his best now. Compare that to the Usyk fight, well past it. But one thing I will say, as you said, Chisora warrior. Gerald Washington, he could have won that fight more if he did win it. Because I need to watch it back again. He could have won that so much more decisively had he shown a bit more aggression in spots. And he could have done what he did, but do it a little bit more and show aggression as well. Because if you're a back foot fighter away from home, or you're a back foot fighter, sometimes you do need to stand your ground and 100%. throw leather. And I think he could have done that a bit more, but that's never been his nature. I'll give Gerald Washington credit, because I was saying to you a bit earlier, that's the first time I've maybe seen him against a pressure fighter, and not fold in a competitive fight. I know he fought Eddie Chambers, but I haven't seen that fight personally. But yeah, I think that's the strongest minded I've seen him. I know Malik Scott actually had to have a word with him in the corner. Maybe that spurred him on. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see that one when he was in the corner because I was sitting in a place that I couldn't really see Washington's corner.
He apparently at one point it looked like he was going to quit, I think.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. Yeah.
And then Malik Scott was like saying like something, and then he kind of came on strong. But Washington, if he could have made that easier. But you know, credit to both men, and it wasn't the best fight, but I think I can conceivably see why you thought Washington won it, and I'll watch it back. We'll quickly move on to Hrgović versus McKee. Now that fight was an elephant in the room, man, because I'm concerned for Hrgović now.
100%.
I'll let you take the floor. Go on.
I think with this Hrgović McKee fight, into this fight, I didn't rate McKee one bit. I've watched him fight a couple people. He fought a guy called Bracco Monte, went the distance with him. Someone, Fraser Clark, fought him and stopped him. And I don't rate Fraser Clark either. I know in boxing it's not a triangle theory, but it's just the fact that I never rated McKee. And for Hrgović to not only stop him late 12th round, and that in my opinion was a rubbish stoppage, to even have problems with McKee, that's a big problem. They're talking about Hrgović being the future of the heavyweight division. This is 2 times now that I've seen him have serious issues, and I just think, I don't know if it's a motivation thing or whatever, but maybe he just needs a refresh. Maybe he needs a refresh. He needs to get that motivation back, because it's looking like he's lost it. I don't know what's going on. Obviously, I know he's lost his dad last year. That could definitely change a person, but the fight game doesn't wait for people going through problems, so.
And this is what I was going to mention. You know, I think I could maybe say, you know what, the Hrgović fight, he just lost his dad. That's understandable. This fight here is what, like, you know, I'm not trying to be harsh. This is a year later. So is it because he's still grieving over his dad, or is this like him finding his ceiling? I don't know. But what I will say is that maybe it's a stylistic issue because it's two southpaws. But I will say Hrgović, you can see the class, and you can see that he was more clinical than Dempsey McKee and had more talent and better timing and better punch delivery. But his weight, he looks a bit pudgy, and his stamina seems all over the place. It's almost like he wants to fight the first half of a fight and take like the whole midsection of a fight off. And then like he's letting McKean back into the fight, and then like, I mean, to be honest with you, he's lucky that McKean switched off there, and he's also lucky that that the stoppage was the way it was, because McKean, I can see McKean holding his way to the end of that fight, because he was holding all night. So like the fact that fight got stopped, I haven't watched it again. But I remember texting you at the time saying that was controversial. Definitely. But McKean, sorry, let me make one more point with this. McKean, I didn't know this, had no amateur fights. So
I saw this. I literally saw this the week before. He said he's learning on the job. He's had no amateur fights. So that is crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, so if anything, McKean did well, and Hrgović is very underwhelming. Do you pick Hrgović against Fury, Usyk, Wilder, like even Joshua, or like even fighters like Makhmudov? Are you looking at Hrgović now and thinking this guy is not competing at the top of the heavyweight division, or you not?
I don't think he beats Fury, Usyk, Joshua, Wilder. But to be honest, I can just stylistically, out of the top 4, I see him and Wilder being the closest out of the lot. I do think stylistically he'll give Wilder problems. I think Wilder will obviously have his fair share, but I'm going to say something controversial, you know.
Go on.
I think that Philip Hrgović will beat Wilder if they ever fought.
Okay. No,
honestly, I honestly feel like Philip Hrgović will beat Wilder. I think, obviously, I'm not going to say, I know this was 10 years ago, but we saw their sparring, and I just think stylistically he's got a very good chance of beating a Wilder, 100%.
Okay. That's fair enough. No, honestly, that's fair enough, because sometimes things happen and it looks odd, but that's how boxing works. So I haven't analysed it and what you said, but I'm not gonna discount it at all. So
I also think with Philip Hrgović as well, one thing he's very good at is that because he's feeling the pace, he can control the pace of the fight. This is 2 fights now that I've seen him slow down the pace, and his opponents are being forced to do that. So I think that's one good trait he's got. He fights at the pace that he wants to fight at. So I think that's one good trait that he's got.
That's cool. Yeah, that's fair enough, and I'll have to look out for that. One thing I've noticed about Hrgović is, he picks his punches very well. I don't think he's the puncher that maybe people thought he was.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. I don't think he's a puncher that we all thought he was.
But I do think he definitely adds to the heavyweight division, and he will be in some competitive fights. So I think Johnny Fisher obviously got a win there, but I think he needs to do a lot more. At the moment, I'm seeing him sort of English title level. So
I'm not English title level. I have the current English champion Solomon Dakers. I'll comfortably pick him over Johnny Fisher.
Yeah.
So I think they need to just keep him at that Southern area level, get a couple fights, win it outright, have 3 fights with the Southern area level. Then when you're comfortable, pick it up, because he's still raw. I don't even rate him as a talent, to be honest. I just think he's got a cult following. Obviously, him and his dad have that cult following. So I think that's one thing that could help him in his career in terms of financially. But talent-wise, I don't really see anything there.
Nah, I mean, I wish him all the best, but I don't. He needs to prove a lot more to me. Not to me, but in terms of to make me think that he's, going to go and do something. So, but either way, he gets the win, and let's see what he can do. I think he definitely needs to fight. I know Kamil Sokolowski is retired, but I think he needs to fight that type of journeyman,
that type of level,
for a bit. Because
one person in terms of a journeyman that I would request Johnny Fisher to fight is Dobchenko. The person that I think that's the new Sokolowski in terms of levels. I think that's one good person. Pulled off upset recently, so I think that's a good person to fight.
That's a good shout, because he's not even been stopped yet, so yeah, that'll be good. Alright, so we got those fights covered. I'm looking forward to seeing if Joshua faces Wilder next. I hope he does. I'm looking forward to seeing I wouldn't say Chisora, and I'm not too fussed about seeing Chisora Washington again. I want to see Hrgović fights next, because I'm not writing him off. I know he's had 2 performances that aren't great, but I'm not writing him off, and I'm not writing off what you said about the Wilder thing. And do you know what? I think McKean showed me a little bit there to say that he might maybe be a gatekeeper or something, but I think he showed me something there as well. So maybe definitely. He could be in some fun fights. They don't have to be top level fights. If they're evenly matched or whatever, then I can watch fights at all levels. So thank you to Aaron for joining me again. And hopefully we'll do it again soon. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the coming weeks. And obviously we got Buatsi and Aziz. So maybe if you're interested in that, we'll have a look at that fight as well.
100%. I'm also looking forward to the Usyk Dubois fight. I'm actually really looking forward to that, because I actually do think that's going to be a closer fight than people.
Me too.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a closer fight than people are giving Dubois a chance for, honestly.
Me too, because because when I made a video when the fight got announced, and I can see that. Honestly, I think people. I saw the odds. It's like 16-1. That's crazy, man.
16-1 to the
something like that for Usyk. That's crazy, man.
Maybe I might chuck a quick 5 on the ball.
Trust. I think it's more like 7-1 or 5-1 or something like that. That's more realistic in my opinion. But either way, man. Mates. Thank you to Aaron for joining me again. I'm looking forward to having you back. And make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video, and I'll see you on the next video.